Are you a hypnotic changework practitioner who has a client who is a particularly tough nut to crack? Or are you trying to make a change in your own life, but you just seem to be stuck? If you're in one of those two camps, then this video could well be for you. Hey, how's it going? This is James Tripp. This is a video for Chaos Wave on YouTube. It is sponsored by the tripp-macarthur Changework Skills Development Program because we have a level 1 training coming up. I'll say something about that at the end of the video, but right now we are looking at the 5 personality traits that keep people stuck. Now, to kick this off, I want to thank Martin Couture for asking a question on YouTube. Martin asked, can the different personality types / views of the world have specific barriers that need to be pierced? Now, I want to thank you, Martin, for asking this question. I also want to apologize somewhat because I suspect the answer I'm going to give isn't quite the direction that you were looking in, because I know it mentioned visuals in another part of the question, which I assume refers to the classic NLP idea that there are visual people, there are auditory people, there are kinesthetic people. I'm not going to address that because I think these are certainly processing channels and certainly people may have preferences. I'm going to come at this from a slightly different angle, and some people also looking at this might see 5 personality types and they might be thinking of the classic big 5. I'm not going to be talking about the big 5. I'm going to be talking about some different personality attributes that for me are major players in keeping people stuck. And if you're a changework practitioner of any kind, whether you think of yourself as a hypnotic facilitator, as a coach, as a whatever, therapist, whatever you see yourself as, you're likely to encounter these blocks in clients. And if you're somebody who's interested in self-change, self-coaching, watch out for these in yourself, because this is the kind of stuff that's going to keep you stuck. One of the things that I say to every single client that sits down in front of me when we begin working is, I often say, we don't know each other that well, but one thing I do know to be true is that you can radically transform your experience around this issue that you've been facing. You can completely go beyond it. You can transform it beyond recognition. And the reason I know this is because you're a human being. And this is part of who we are, what we are, and what we're capable of. For everybody, we have highly neuroplastic brains. We are all capable of radical self-transformation and the transformation of the experiences that are keeping us stuck in life. So I tell this to everybody, and I tell people this because it's true. So far as I'm concerned, it's true. Now, that doesn't mean that change is always smooth. When facilitating change, if you're a changework practitioner, you'll know you get those dream sessions. You'll know you get those short, sweet sessions that just nail an issue completely for somebody extremely quickly, but that isn't always how it goes. The truth of the matter is different clients bring different things to the table. Some clients bring a lot of resources that you can use, that you can deploy. They bring a wonderful attitude, a wonderful state of mind. You can get stuff changing really, really quickly. And other clients bring stuff to the table that creates obstacles, blocks, difficulties, this kind of thing. Now, I want to make it absolutely clear as I say this, I am not blaming clients for blocking change. We're all human beings. We're all human beings and we all do these fundamentally human things. And the things that I'm going to list here, the 5 personality traits, everybody does them. Everybody does them to some degree or another. The problem comes about when they become too ascendant and too chronic. Okay, so let's look at these 5 personality traits. So for my top 5 here, I've chosen helplessness, hopelessness, overactive critical faculty, chronic discounting, and chronic people pleasing. So these are not the only 5 personality traits, but these are ones that come up a lot. So we're going to look at them one by one. So first of all, let's look at helplessness. Helplessness is the sense that somebody has that they cannot do it, that they cannot make a difference, that they do not have the power within them to make a difference. And it usually comes about, you may say, well, that's not really a personality trait, but it actually comes about from doing a lot of victim thinking or victim processing or victim mind setting, if you like, holding a victim mindset. Now, I've talked about the owner-victim distinction in other videos recently, in Reality Hacks #1 video from probably the end of December, maybe early January, I can't remember when, but I'm just going to cover it quickly here. Essentially, an owner, somebody who runs ownership patterns, is somebody who's always looking for where they've got power and always looking for where they can make a difference in life. Somebody who runs victim patterns is somebody who is always looking for where they cannot make a difference. And this is why they go into this helplessness mode. If people unconsciously sought for where they do not have power all the time, this will keep them chronically stuck. So this is the essence of helplessness, this continual orientation towards powerlessness. It's not real, it's a habit of mind. And that's why I've included it here as a personality trait, so to speak. A personality trait is just something that we run, a pattern that we run over and over, part of our repertoire of trances and mind movements, if you like. So that's #1 on the list, helplessness. #2 on the list is hopelessness. Now, another way you can look at hopelessness, it's the sense that it's not possible. So whereas helplessness is, I don't have the power to do this, hopelessness is, this cannot be done because it's not possible. It breaks the rules of how the world works. It breaks the rules of how the universe works. Now, sometimes this is not really a personality trait. It might be specific to the thing that somebody wants to change. They may have an understanding about something that is unique. It's not part of their personality, it just blocks the change. So I was working with somebody recently around a post-traumatic stress issue who had been told by people that his brain was permanently changed and there was nothing he could do about that. Now, working with that idea, his brain's permanently changed, there's nothing he could do about that, of course, you know, as the thinker thinks, the prover proves, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It creates hopelessness, and the hopelessness creates a context of stuckness, no change. In that instance, it wasn't about the guy's personality, it was about an idea that he got wrapped around. However, hopelessness can also come about from chronic pessimism. Chronic pessimism, the idea of the worst thing is always going to happen, that just life is terrible, and it's a bit like the helplessness where somebody looks for their powerlessness inside of themselves. I don't have the power, in that there's no power, not because of myself, but because the world just doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. You just can't do this, you just can't do that. So this is the nature of hopelessness as a pattern of mind, as a way of thinking. It's like a chronic pessimism. You just can't do it. It doesn't work like that. So forget about it. So this is another thing that's going to keep people stuck. People that process in this kind of way. You know, maybe some people who have that I am what I am. Just, you know, this is me. Leopard can't change its spots. These sorts of ideas. This keeps people in a pattern of stuckness. So the next item on the list, #3 on the list here, is the overactive critical faculty. The overactive critical faculty. Now, I want to say something about critical faculty, because if you're watching this and you're a student of hypnosis, you'll be familiar with the term critical faculty. Originally coined, I believe, by Dave Ellman. If you look in his book, Hypnotherapy, look through that, you'll see him talking about the critical faculty, never the critical factor. If you look at Dave's book, Mr. Ellman's book, always the critical faculty. So the critical faculty is the capacity of our brains and our minds to critique things, break things down, dissect things, chop them up, deconstruct things, take them apart. This is what the critical faculty does. Now, when David Ellman was talking about the critical faculty, he was talking about it in terms of hypnosis, because the critical faculty keeps suggestions and new ideas out, because it breaks down suggestions and new ideas as they come in. It's like, well, that's not so because of X, Y, and Z. This is what the critical faculty does. So from the perspective of a hypnotist who wants to seed new ideas and place new ideas in there, Dave Ellman pointed out you want to bypass the critical faculty. Now, I actually see the critical faculty as having a counterpart that I call the creative faculty. And the creative faculty is the opposite of breaking down these ideas. It's running with these ideas. It's connecting with them. It's riding the train of the idea to create an experience from the idea. In fact, this is what we're doing 24/7 when we're shaping and creating our experience of the world around us. As I've said elsewhere, we live through trances that are mind-made. You could see this as the creative faculty. It's the thing that runs with the ideas that we hold and shapes our reality accordingly. The critical faculty breaks stuff down. Now, if you look at these two faculties running next to each other, and this is a conceptual thing. There's no module in the brain as such. It's an emergent phenomenon. I'll just say that for my science geek friends out there. But if you look at these two faculties running simultaneously, the creative faculty perpetuates our current ways of being and doing and seeing the world, and the critical faculty tends to break down anything that would challenge those. So you can see it's a way of keeping us stable in how we are doing things. Keeps us stable in how we're doing things. But it's powerful if you want to help people change, if you can switch so they are now bringing their critical faculty to bear upon their pre-existing ideas and consciously using their creative faculty to run with new ideas. So when you switch that round, when you make that switch, you can actually turn something that's a problem, this critical faculty that Dave Ellman said you want to bypass, into something that's a profound asset. However, if you have a client, or if you do it yourself, where you are constantly using your critical faculty to defend your current worldview and break down any new ideas, new possibilities, anything different, if your client's using it like that, they need to know that that's not going to help them change. If you're doing it for yourself, you need to know it's not going to help you change. So I often bring this to clients' consciousness when they're arguing for their limitations. I'll use this. I'll say, it's an interesting thing because you've come here and you've told me that you want to change. And yet here you are arguing vigorously for the very reality that you say that you want to change. And you know what? You're going to win. You're going to win this argument if you keep making it. So the real question is, do you want to continue to do this? Or do you want to open yourself to some new possibilities? Because I think underneath of all of this, you really want to change. That's right, isn't it? So I might do something like this, and this is a way of shining the spotlight of consciousness on what's going on so the person can see that they're not, arguing against me, they're arguing against the change that they say that they want. Okay, and then they can go, they can bring some consciousness to it, step back from it, open themselves up to new possibility and difference. I will also say at this point, I'll give you a little tip here. I will also say, and of course there is no rule in the universe that says you have to change. You can stay exactly as you are if you wish to. That's a very powerful line to use with a client who's been arguing for their limitations, arguing for the problem trance, arguing from the problem trance that they want to stay in. So a little pragmatic tip there as well. So let's move on to the next one. Chronic discounting. Chronic discounting. The essence of change is difference. I've said this in many places before. The essence of change is difference. We want to get differences happening that make differences. But here's the thing. These differences are all perceptual differences. They're all differences in how reality is organized. If we fail to notice the difference, if we discount difference and look for sameness, we will put our mind back the way it was. Guaranteed. This is a powerful mechanism for keeping change out, is discounting difference. One of the simple things I teach my coaching clients is count your victories. I say, here's the thing, because it's so true of so many people. It's a very human thing. I say, it seems to me that you've been counting your defeats but discounting your victories. People go, oh yeah, and I point out where they've been doing this in their life, discounting their victories and counting their defeats. I say, if you continue to do this, all you're going to do is continue to undermine yourself and continue reinforcing an idea of self that's held unconsciously that just is not serving you. Now, you want to change this, right? You want to achieve different things. Yes, I do. So you need to switch this around. And I'm going to invite you now to start consciously counting your victories and discounting your defeats. We're all human. We all screw up. We don't need to wallow in it. We don't need to, bathe in defeat. We can just let it go. And I'm giving you some quick tack pieces here. Often I'll layer a lot of this stuff in with multiple metaphors, bring it in from different perspectives, because different people will resonate with different ways of communicating the same idea. So when I'm giving you these little ideas, these nuggets in here, I'm not saying that's all you need to say and it does some magic bullet mind shift. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you need a different approach. And this is all part of the skill of flexibility in change work. It's like, this is what we want to achieve. You have to know what you want to achieve. And you have to be creative and go, well, are we getting there? Are we getting closer? Or do we need to try a different tack? And this relates to what's called tote loops, for those who may know. For those who don't, if you really want a video on tote loops, please request and I shall make one. That's test, operate, test, exit. All right, let's stay focused on what we're talking about in this video. So we want to get people counting difference. The other thing that I want to point out with this is some hypnotherapy schools actually make this problem worse in what they teach, because they teach these ideas that you get miracle change with these magic bullet techniques in moments, and they encourage their students to tell the people absolutely emphatically, yes, you will change, this will never be a problem again. Now, I think this can be an issue because it sets up what I call the anything less than trap, or the promise the world trap. If you promise the world, if you deliver one iota short, anything less than complete change, the person is going to process that as failure, because you said it was going to be absolutely perfect. So anything less than perfect gets classed as failure. So people often inadvertently, depending on how they've been trained, can set themselves up for this kind of failing. And sometimes people will never know, because there are schools out there that don't teach you to follow up with clients, which is a crazy thing, or say, it's not important. I've heard people say, well, I know the client changes because I can tell at the end of the session. Yeah, but what are they like 2 weeks down the line? And this is the thing, people are often afraid of feedback because they've been given artificial expectations of how change work actually works. And I'll just say as an aside, on the tripp-macarthur training program, one of our primary values is that we run it as a no bullshit zone. Okay, a no bullshit zone. We tell it like it is, and we encourage our students and the people in the room to tell it like it is with regard to their challenges. We want complete raw honesty, because it's only a lot of the anxiety that people encounter when they go out in the world. They've trained in hypnosis, they've trained in coaching, they've trained in NLP Changework skills. They have a lot of anxiety because they think they have to be a certain thing, and there's a lot of questions that were never, a lot of elephants in the room that never had a spotlight shone on them. So our ethos is keeping it 100% no bullshit zone. So change is not smooth, it's messy, and sometimes we've got to troubleshoot things. We want to leave the door open. Of course, if we can get instant, huge transformation in one go, great. But we don't want to rule out those people that might need a little bit of whittling and a little bit of adjustment. We don't want them to go, oh, it didn't work, and wander off into the distance because we failed to deliver on a ridiculous promise of miraculous transformation. So we want to be able to work in the real world. We want to open up the door for that kind of radical, dramatic, wow, hallelujah change, but also not close the door for more slow and steady change, because just sometimes that's the way it rolls. Okay, so this last point that I want to mention here is people pleasing. Okay, chronic people pleasing. And this relates in many ways to what I just said about the no bullshit zone. One of the things that I often say to clients is, this is a no bullshit zone. Any attempt on your part to please me is only going to get in the way of this process, only going to get in the way of your unconscious learning and transformation. So this is a really important thing, because some clients, and when I first started out doing change work, I loved these people pleasers because they would fake me. They would mislead me. They would give me the answers I wanted to hear all the time. And that wasn't helping. So it really gets in the way. What you want when you're working with a client is you want a context of radical honesty. Okay? And when you're working with yourself, you want a context of radical honesty as well. You don't want to be bullshitting yourself. Now, when I say radical honesty, particularly when working with yourself, that doesn't mean judgment and criticism. Okay? Observe your own patterning without judgment and with curiosity, but be radically honest about what you're seeing and what you're witnessing. If you're working with a client, you want to be radically honest with the client. You don't want to be a people pleaser. You're there to serve your client, not please your client. Those are different things. If you're out trying to people please your client, that will get in the way of powerful and effective change work. If your client is out to people please you, to keep you happy and nice, that's going to get in the way of their change too. So you need this context of radical honesty, and you want to coach it. And do you know what? If you have a client, regardless of what you're doing with them, the change work, if you coach them in being able to be more radically honest, you see, because what keeps people in the realm of people pleasing is fear of rejection. And that stems from an organization of reality where they do not have power. So this is a developmental coaching thing, but I always bring my developmental coaching stuff into my change work clients as well, even if we're just doing a minimal number of sessions. So indirectly, if you get somebody to that point where, do you know what, they can have difficult conversations in the world without having to fear judgment, criticism, and then go into people-pleasing mode, do you know what, that is radically life-changing stuff. So somebody might come into you because they come in to see you because they want to transcend, I don't know, a fear of flying or a simple phobia or a habit or something like this. But if they walk away and they've got this generative change, something's different in their overall ground of being so that they can meet life in a more empowered way, well, guess what? You're opening the door for doing further developmental work for them, which is of fantastic service to them and is also, it's good for business, you know, and we're all here doing our thing in the world, making our way. And if you're a hypnotic changework practitioner or a coach, then you want to be able to make money doing what you're doing, and serving your clients profoundly is the way to do it, not pleasing them. Okay? So encourage yourself to operate in a no bullshit zone, encourage the client work to be done in a no bullshit zone. This is why it's one of the primary ethics of the tripp-macarthur Changework Skills Development Program. One of the things that we revisit over and over again. Okay, so if you like this video, if the ideas in this video have served you, hit like the video if you're watching it on YouTube. Feel free to head to YouTube if you're watching it somewhere else and like the video there too. If you're interested in joining us, 4 days intensive skills drilling, changework skills, real world changework skills with myself, my training partner, Andy MacArthur. We're running this in Edinburgh on the 16th to the 19th of March. So it's extremely short notice, and that's one of the reasons, because it's such short notice, we've put it up ridiculously short notice. One of the reasons we're doing this crazy launch week where we are offering 38% off the main ticket price, 38% off. If you book before midnight UK time on this coming Monday, which I think is Monday the 12th, it is Monday the 12th. If it's not, you'll see a correction pop up on the screen. So if you want to book in, you want to get that 38% discount, you want to come and train with myself and Andy MacArthur in radical, real world, no bullshit changework skills, do it. Because we're not going to be making a habit of doing that kind of discount, because we don't intend to be running them at this kind of short notice in the future. We're going to map them out more. So if you want to seize this opportunity to get 38% off, I would recommend you do it this time round, because it is extremely unlikely to happen again. Okay, if you have any questions, make use of the comment section below, wherever you are, and I look forward to continuing this conversation.